We got Cyberpunks, epic feuds, and lots of Microsoft news. Let's talk. What up, viewers? What up? What up? Today is Friday, August 14th, and that means it's time for a quick recap of the week in video game news. Let's start right off with Cyberpunk, everyone's much anticipated game coming out in just 3 short months. Cyberpunk will be here, and along the way, they have been doing a series of Night City Wires, which is their kind of like 20-minute direct to consumer kind of showcase. And this one didn't quite have as much big news as the last one, but it really goes into more. They keep showing more and more gameplay, and that's why I keep tuning into them. This one talked about, I think they hinted about it on social media before, but this one kind of talked about life paths, which is going to be like what your character's background is, and that means that where your character starts is just going to be completely different depending on which life path you choose. The 3 life paths they talked about were Corpo, Street Kid, and Nomad. So Nomads kind of actually exist out in like the desert wasteland outside of the mega city in Cyberpunk. And yeah, that's where you start with there. They're really oriented around like family and very closely knit communities out there. Then you get the Street Kids, and then you get the Corpos. And those are kind of self-explanatory, whether or not you grew up on the streets inside of the super city, or whether or not you are somehow involved or have a relationship with the big corporations that are so prevalent in Cyberpunk. I thought this was all really cool. I think it's crazy that most games most RPGs you just on your character, and then you wake up in a vault, and everyone starts with the same kind of vault. So this idea of like starting where like different perspectives is really cool. Again, CD Projekt Red is nailing it out of the park of just like things I wouldn't have thought of to bring to an RPG. They're bringing to this game, and they're really hitting all the details. And so I wonder if this has to do with, they've kind of hinted at like a replayability, and that the campaign won't be 200 hours and more like a 40-hour experience. And so this kind of different, just selecting a different background means that you're going to have to select 3 different play styles just so that you start out in a different place, and maybe there's different quests depending on where you start. So they've really thought of a lot of details, and so that's why I really appreciated this this Night City Wire, because it really went into the gameplay. It's in the last one they talked about like a new gameplay mechanic of like watching someone's memories, and like that has its own kind of implications, but this kind of feels like a more tangible thing that I can understand, of like you just start in a different area depending on what your background is. So I personally will be going towards Corpo. I'll be playing as my Shadowrun character named Cold Dynamite, and so I've kind of been playing the same character throughout all their Cyberpunk games, like Shadowrun, and Shadowrun's a Cyberpunk game, right? Which I'm kind of continuing that, so I'm looking forward to playing through that. And I think the Corpo might be the bastard stepchild of the life paths. I think everybody else is kind of, what I've seen on social media, everybody else is kind of going to the Street Kid and the Nomad. But that's not all they talked about in the Night City Wire. They also talked about guns. They broke down each of the different levels of guns. You have tech weapons, which I think have like seeking bullets. You have power weapons, which I think are supposed to be more archaic and supposed to be more reminiscent of guns you would see nowadays and not in the super future. They talked about the melee weapons, and I saw like a monofilament whip and a katana. They talked about cyberware, which is where you get like those mantis claws that you saw in the original Cyberpunk trailer from 10 years ago or whatever that was. So they really went into the guns and how to use them, and they showed a little bit of montage of rolling through each of the guns. So I'm looking forward to playing with those guns. What up, Joe? And last but certainly not least, they took like 10 minutes or 5 or 10 minutes to talk about like the music behind it, and they really went into like a lot of detail. It was like a mini like behind the scenes on how the music gets made, and how they got this artist to really change, kind of take his influence, but also like take a lot of direction on what it takes to be like a Keanu Reeves, you know, Johnny Silverhand type character. And there was just a lot of details, and they were, like, that was the one thing that I got out of this. It was very detail oriented, very, very pressing on the, like, the very minutia of what it takes to be, you know, what to really invest in this like immersive world. So I appreciate it. I actually feel a little bit bad for the musician that they got, because he was like, I have to change how I talk and how, you know, what kind of accent I have, and I have to like manipulate all of that just so I can be in this game. But they're really hitting the details. So, and that's what we're looking forward to in a, you know, Cyberpunk might be a standalone title, you know, a new IP, but I really think of this as like the next iteration for CDP off of The Witcher 3, which is all about very detailed side quests and a very immersive world. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing more about Cyberpunk. They've been doing these about once every 4 or 5 weeks, so I'd expect one, you know, mid-September, maybe one late October, and then we have the game launching. So looking forward to seeing those. Let me know if you thought I had missed anything from the Night City Wire episode 2. I'll have a link down in the description below. Next, we're going to talk about a thing that I never thought I would see, but Epic is now picking a fight with some pretty big companies. You might have heard of them, Apple and Google. So the details are, Epic decided that on their mobile store that they would, or on the mobile game, on the mobile version of Fortnite, that they would undercut the platform fees by having a direct to Epic kind of monetization that players could access. So you could buy V-Bucks for $10 through Apple and Google, or you could buy $8 for the same amount of V-Bucks on if you did like a direct to Epic purchase. So this obviously upset Apple and Google, which immediately dropped Fortnite from the app stores because they want their cut. If you're going to be on their platform, they're going to want you to pay their fees. So they immediately removed Fortnite from the App Store. I don't know if that means that they can't, like, people can't access that game anymore or how that works, but yeah, you can't access Fortnite anymore. Epic, I think, knew that this was coming up, so they had a trailer chamber. They also had a trailer chambered, ready to go. So as soon as that happened, they put a trailer up. It was very 1984-esque, and it was like asking the community to band with Fortnite. They even had a hashtag Free Fortnite against the oppressive regime that is Apple and Google and their platform fees. And I've actually been pretty impressed with Epic and really wanting to shake things up in the space. People were calling them out as wanting special treatment. That was the narrative that Apple and Google were trying to spin up, and they kind of tried to squash that by saying that no, they're not looking for special treatment. They're trying to get everybody to kind of stop this quote monopoly against these platform fees, and yeah, and then that started a series of lawsuits. So Epic suing Apple, Google suing Epic, blah 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 blah. So there's this whole legal angle that's going to go into it, and yeah, but you know, I'm all for. It's funny to think of Epic as the underdog in this situation, but when you think of titans like Google and Apple, then you know they are the small kid in the arena, and I think their heart is in the right place. You know, they moved into the kind of PC gaming space, and you have the Epic Game Store, and they've been kind of shaking things up of, you know, when Steam was getting its platform fees and that was kind of locked in and that was maybe crushing some smaller developers, they decided to come in and reduce platform fees across kind of the PC landscape. So try to break that up, and now they're trying to do the same with mobile gaming, and more power to them if they can pull it off. But they've got a long journey ahead if they're going to try and do something as big as shaking up how mobile games are sold. So looking forward to seeing how that rolls out. But man, it's quite a big arena to jump into. So rounding out this kind of like top three is Call of Duty keeps very, very slowly dripping information out there. I believe people have been following along with the story, and they had released some images that said that something was going to happen on 8/14. And now we thought that there was going to be a trailer, but turns out that was just more confirmation of like the Cold War era, and you've got like a year range, so this is supposed to be set in the early 60s. So that's when the next Call of Duty game is gonna come out, and I think this is a rather strange way that they're marketing, but I feel like they're trying to balance making as much money off of Warzone as possible without like confirming that there's next Call of Duty coming out, and that they don't want to release a trailer for a game, announce it, and then like start losing revenue from Warzone, because I assume it's making big bank. But they also want to like get people hyped and ready and kind of anticipation for the next Call of Duty game, which I think is going to be later than a typical Call of Duty game comes out. So I'm expecting it kind of early or mid to late November, kind of a late time period, because they want to keep raking in the money, and don't blame them for that. The other big news this week, and why I talked about Microsoft in my cold open, was Halo Infinite has been delayed into 2021. Whew, man. That was like shocking news. Like, I got the emails that were like, oh my god, this is happening, what do we do about it? But yeah, Halo Infinite has been pushed out to 2021. I don't know if this is a response to the negative feedback they got from the trailer they showed at the Xbox Series X games showcase, but yeah, they're pushing it out. They're taking some more time with it. I think they quoted COVID effects, COVID, and it is affecting a large majority of the gaming industry, but I'm somewhat of a skeptic where when they receive negative feedback and then they talk about a delay, whether or not there's two different there's multiple ways to look at it. But yeah, and that, I think this casts a whole shadow on like everyone was kind of expecting like this is the console seller for Xbox Series X, and now what do they have? And that was my first thought, was like, holy crap, what does their launch lineup look like? Is it all third-party titles? I just didn't know. Like, are they just selling a platform where you can play Xbox Game Pass? Like, is that what you're buying when you buy an Xbox? It's just a series of backwards compatible, always on subscription service, and is that enough to push people to a new console, to a different console? I don't know. Or are they just going after people who haven't bought a console before and they want access to a whole bunch of games? So yeah, Halo Infinite is no longer going to be a launch title for the Xbox Series X. So I guess they're just trying to introduce a new ecosystem. The PS5 sing. Yeah. I mean, the console war is less of a war now, and it's more a battle of hearts and minds, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, the Xbox Series X is gonna have a weird launch. Yeah, but Microsoft did kind of put out two press, or tried to cover two birds with one stone. They announced that that Halo is being delayed, but they also announced that they confirmed that Xbox Series X will be coming out in November. So that's kind of where I had it. My bet is on November 17th, but tied to the kind of Assassin's Creed launch. I think Black Flag was a launch title for Xbox, the Xbox One. So I'm kind of seeing a tie-in there, but I'm pulling at strings trying to guess at where it is. So if you have any guess of when it's going to be better than mine, tell me about it. So yeah, so Xbox Series X coming this November. And then one more piece of Microsoft news was that someone got access to a new gen Xbox controller. And on the packaging, I believe you could read lines something about how there's going to be an Xbox Series S. And this comes to the surprise of no one, that there's going anytime with a name like Xbox Series X, you had to assume that there was going to be other series, that there would be a Series Y and a Series Z. Apparently, it's Series S, and I'm really getting confused on this Xbox Series S, X, kind of all the kind of crap that's going along. Like, too many S's, too many X's. Get them out of here. Just call it a number. I don't know. Like, I appreciated the Xbox One all-in-one kind of console, and the 360 kind of had this circular loop kind of motif, but I just figure out what you're naming your consoles, because it's really confusing. But yes, there is going to be an Xbox Series X, there's going to be an Xbox Series S, and there's probably going to be every letter in between. So so looking forward to the different types of Xboxes that are coming later this year. Whew. Moving on, changing subject a little bit, was MPD released a report talking about Q2, April to June of this year, the prime Corona months, and they talked about how that time period was the biggest Q2 that has ever been in video games. They talked about like over $11 billion during that time. They also talked about just the biggest ever. They talked about 30% lift year over year. And you know, you can't, I think a lot of people in many industries are trying to figure out what the Corona effect is on certain entertainment, any entertainment, what the Corona effect is on things, view benchmarks and all that kind of stuff, what people are talking about. But here you have it. Video games industry is booming, and that's with every game that comes out. Doom had its biggest year. Animal Crossing was the fastest selling Switch title like ever. Last of Us 2. So every game that has come out in that kind of time frame has been boasting about biggest, fastest, this and that. You're kind of getting whiplash hearing all those buzzwords around video games, but here's a renowned source of video game sales, and so hearing that was kind of cool this week. So that's what MPD released, that report talking about very big spending, and it's good to see that even in the hardest times, people are getting together to play video games. So keep doing it. I will. Twitch Prime is going to rebrand. It's funny that I'm streaming this on Twitch and talking about Twitch Prime, but Twitch Prime is now being changed, going through a rebrand. It will now be called Prime Gaming. It will still be all the same kind of features that you know and love, of like you can subscribe for free if you're an Amazon Prime member. I kind of understand the kind of vertical marketing branding of like having Prime this and Prime that and Prime tacos and whatever. But so rebranding it to Prime Gaming, I'm wondering if this will have any effect on it. I would assume the Twitch brand is strong enough that they're not going to like change the Twitch brand to be Prime streaming service or anything like that. But kind of rather than rather than mashing two brands together with Prime and Twitch, I just kind of want to separate that to be Prime Gaming on Twitch. Everyone's still going to call it Twitch Prime and all that kind of stuff, but I kind of see the vertical decision that is, Amazon wants to have a little bit more brand recognition around Prime, so they're going to call it Prime Gaming. So let me know what you think of that down in the comments below. Moving right along, a little bit more fun news. There's a new Walking Dead game coming to PlayStation VR. I hadn't heard anything about this yet. When I saw Walking Dead and PlayStation VR together, I was like, is this more about Saints and Sinners? Like, Saints and Sinners was a Walking Dead game set in New Orleans that came to Oculus and Steam at the beginning of the year in January. And then it came to PlayStation VR in May. So I was like, why are we seeing more about this? But no, this is a brand new game coming this September, at the end of September, on September 29th. It is a PlayStation VR game called Walking Dead Onslaught. And this one takes place with the main brand characters, all the characters you know and love of Daryl and Rick and Michonne and Carol. All those characters are coming together, and this might be your only place for getting Walking Dead content. Having recently binged Walking Dead, I'm thirsting for more, and this game might just suck me in. So I love Walking Dead content. I love. I'm glad that it's kind of around the characters. I think I heard the voice actor for Rick, and he's trying his best to sound like Rick, but he just doesn't have the right tones. And everyone has their own Rick impression. But this one just seemed a little off. So if you can't get over that, then this might not be the game for you. But if you want more Walking Dead content, PlayStation VR, Walking Dead Onslaught coming September 29th. Dead by Daylight, everyone's favorite asymmetrical horror game, is coming to, or is going to crossplay, and by going to, I mean it is now live with crossplay. So I just kind of wanted to cast a light on this because, you know, again, talking about Epic and how they were able to like bend the industry to their will. You know, they brought crossplay to mobile platforms and consoles and PC. Because they were able to, like, you know, leverage their game, and that kind of opened up the floodgates to more games to have crossplay, like Rocket League and now Dead by Daylight, which is one of my favorite games, and hopefully I can get back into it now that I can play with my PC friends and my PlayStation friends and my any other platform friends. So cool to see that, and I always follow Dead by Daylight. It was kind of one of the first games that I watched on Twitch just because I really liked the game, and that's what kind of got me watching Twitch as much as I do. So yeah. Last but certainly not least, Netflix has a new docu-series coming out talking about video games. It's, you know, and there's a lot of different ways that you can approach the subject of video games, and especially in documentary series. There's plenty of them about like E.T. and burying them out in New Mexico or Arizona or wherever they are. But the most recent one is coming in the next week or so. It's called High Score, and it's just going to go through the video games. And the interesting take, the way that they're differentiating themselves is they're going to start by video game genre. They're just going to kind of go through it and talk about like what games kind of set the genre and how it's changed over time. I'm looking forward to it. I don't typically watch documentary series. I'm looking for more of escapism when I look for my media and entertainment. So, but you know, this documentary series talking about video games should be really cool. I'm interested to see what kind of history they go into when they talk about shooting games with Wolfenstein and Doom and you know, first-person shooters, or the fighting game genre when you start with Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat and how that's kind of changed over time. Really interested to see that play out. So let me know what you think. I've seen a couple reviews on High Scores, and you know, people are looking forward to it. So I am as well. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this content. If you do, follow, like, and subscribe to me on YouTube and Twitch so you can see more great. If you have a super day. I hope you have a super weekend, and I hope you have a super day. Bye.